Hello, I'm Oral Gibbs, and welcome to Oral Gibbs Live. I have a very interesting guest. You'll meet my guest after these words. The Windward Island Bank in Phillipsburg. For all your banking needs, it's a Windward Island Bank in Phillipsburg, um, Simpson Bay, and in Cul-de-sac. I always get mixed up with Cul-de-sac, but Simpson Bay, Cul-de-sac, and Phillipsburg is a Windward Islands Bank, your bank for all your banking needs. And GEBE, serving St. Martin for over 6 decades. GEBE, or local water and electricity company. And I'm Earl Gibbs here with you, and my guest is a very, very interesting guest. He's been on the program many times before. He's back now, and much more happier man, I'm for sure. The one and only Mr. Mark Mingo. How you doing, sir?
Hi, Earl. How are you doing?
I'm fine,
Thank you for having me, and also hello to your viewers.
Well, it's good to have you back in the program. You're looking great, man.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think the last time it was in Madam Estate. But
Right.
congratulations on your new studio. It's beautiful. I'm not gonna comment on the color, but it's beautiful and very professional.
Don't worry about the color. The color, believe me, that color is there, but that's not what it's going to be actually for, especially for Chroma Keen.
Okay.
But I'm going through something because I wanna bring up something on the screen, and you know that guy, there's a composite of you from 7 years ago, 5 years ago, and 6 years ago.
So I got younger, older, and I can't see the picture
Kind of
directly,
surprising,
but
but it's there. The monitor is a little
okay.
small, but when we go back and you look at it again, you'll see it. But that's a picture of you as
Yeah, it's been a while. About 6 years, you said?
yeah,
6 years,
yeah.
yeah.
The last show we had you on was, I think, was 5 years ago.
Yeah,
The
that's
time
right.
go really fast,
Yeah.
huh? Yeah. So what's happened? You're the man. You know, they always say there's a person who builds something. But you didn't build the port of Zimbabwe. When you came back, I mean, you took it on really aggressively. You turned it into a real modern day port, a port that became the envy of the Caribbean. So you was chief executive officer at the port of St. Martin, right?
Yes, Oral. When I was in the Netherlands, I was working for a top 500 Hewlett Packard company. I was actually acquired or recruited by St. Martin to develop the port. They wanted a port to, at that time the port was was small, was not major, and we had to commercialize and develop the port. We had to increase the income to make sure
Right.
that we could have paid for developments or future developments. So that's the case. I mean, when I started in 2002, we were just about to open up the first pier, and I can remember we had issues on bringing ships to the pier. So from there on, we developed the port, and I mean today, it's an international port. I believe it's number 7. When I left, it was number 7 transit port. So, it's a very modern, up to date port. You saw also article last week where you had the first female in a crane
Right.
operating the cranes. I said, that was not easy either, because don't forget, the crane company used to be an external company. We took it over, and we maintained 2 of the Gotwald high-tech cranes. And today it's actually flourishing and hiring locals and bringing opportunities. So that is actually, some of the developments moving forward.
I think what a lot of people don't know about you, what you did at the port of St. Martin, no other government-owned corporation did. You put locals first. You gave them position, and you let them do and run the operation, and that never happened in any other company. And the reason why I can say this is because I spoke to some of them, and they were speaking very highly of you.
Yeah, Oral, it's like this. You look, the port has given me opportunity. I came back to Smarten. There's also a risk to that, because I had a good job in Europe and I came back. You also have to give back. A lot of people forget that you have to give back to the community. If you're running a local entity, the port, it would be very strange that you're not hiring locals or putting locals on position. Don't get me wrong, I was a very critical boss as well. But you have to give people the tools to develop. And I think the harbor by itself, if you look at the employees, if you compare the employee satisfaction when I was their CEO, it was very high. But We also, what we did a lot on, we also worked on employees development. We spent a lot of money and time. How do you recruit a person? And it doesn't mean to say that a person have to have a university degree. It can also be an average graduate, which you give them the chance, and they can process. If you look at, for example, the Mr. Roger Lawrence, he came out of the alcohol industry. He came into the port as cargo. He didn't know nothing about cargo, but I think because of his attitude and his intentions and his positive attitudes about I care, that makes a company. The existing CEO as well is also came out from the Netherlands, did his studies in the Netherlands, and he's you're not younger than me when I started, but I think he's 36, and it's not nothing wrong to have young people on board, but the
You
danger.
gave them the opportunity to really
Yes,
progress.
that is what it's about. Why are we doing all of these developments and investments, Martin? Is to give people opportunities to leave them build a career so they can have a cycle to hire maybe your kids, your grandkids, my grandkids, and that's why you're doing it. Because why else would we be developing a country or
Mhm.
island and it doesn't benefit the people who are actually here? So to look at how the port was developed, the very important was the employees, the motivation of the employees of the port. I think the group was, if I'm not mistaken, the group was always at 70 employees. I do believe in a balance of employees and outsourcing, because if you look at Hurricane Irma, if you look at the coronavirus incident, like that period, you're very flexible if you combine employees with outsourcing is basically that you hired other local companies to assist in the work. So that combination was a success formula, and up to the day, I think it's a success formula. If you look also at the government-owned companies, the Harbour is still one of the most stable companies. If you really look and draw the line. There was a report in 2014 by Commission DeWitt, and that report was very, very straightforward. The Harbour was the best run company on the island. And I even used that in my court case and appeal case. And the appeal judges even opened up their eyes that one of their judges was Chairman Bob DeWitt, wrote that piece about the Harbour. And yes, we had our challenges. I was questioned by one of the local papers about how do you screen. We had an issue with third-party screening. I think everybody has that issue, but that's a process as you go. But you got to be careful, Oral, with this as well. I think now we have over exaggerated. We have passed the boundary of red tape. I mean, for you to get anything done on an island, it's like, I think for you to get even a business license, it takes almost forever. And you hear these cries back and forth, and things need to be done because you're going to lose investments.
But Mr. Mingo, I've heard this before. The first time I heard it was by the late Dr. Clawadi. He complained a lot about the increase in bureaucracy in government and how it was slowing down the progress of the island. And when you look at yourself as a young man that came back to work in St. Martin to head the port, before you came, there was a guy from Trinidad. You remember him?
Mr. Ronald Charles, yes,
Right.
correct. He was
Very
actually,
good,
yes.
very nice gentleman. But the importance of having a St. Martiner take over that facility, I think, was important to many people in St. Martin and brought a lot of national pride.
Yeah, that's true. All right. A lot of people think also, all right, I got a question. Yeah, but the harbor was not accessible for locals, etc. Listen, the harbor is an international operation. It has to do with containers. It has to do with tours. There's a lot of rules and security measures when you talk about the ISPSS code. After
Right.
911, it even got worse. But coming back to the red tape, Oral, I mean, we're now doing a research by the central bank to show that the red tape has actually not only burdened but has damaged the investment climate on Sumatra. And you need to take a leading position in this. With all what's happening around us, there's a lot of competition out there. Even now after the coronavirus, the competition is immensely high. If we need to really start looking at this. I think even there was a great initiative. I saw article from the IPCO meeting. I saw MP Bryson came with the banking rules, and we should align the banking rules with the European Union. Those are all good initiatives, but this is always after the fact. It seems like in St. Martin we always work after the fact.
Well, he's
And
an MP and he's a lawmaker, and I wonder what they're doing, just sitting, getting a lot of money and not doing anything. I think I saw the release. I think it's important that people realize that here you have MPs, all they do for the last 12 years are just complaining, but they're not doing anything. It has to start with them. They have to set the initiative and have the government make the changes. They're not doing it.
Oral, indeed, what you said. I mean, I know you have two, I think you have one or two daughters. They did law, legal, who is a lawyer, legal. Let's be honest. I'm in a second year law student. For you to sit in parliament, you need to understand what is laws, how are you going to change it, what are the issues. Right now, as we speak, we're doing a research in the community with some law students about the drinking age of 18. We're checking to see if that law is implemented correctly or not correctly. Those are all very important things. To comment on what Parliament is doing or not doing, that's not only up to me. I already gave my opinion on that. The issues we got, the confusion we got now at government-owned companies, I already said, I advise them, create a committee who handles government entities and put structure in that. Right now, as we speak, if the council of ministers or the ministers don't have enough time to restructure or help government-owned companies become profitable, you can use a committee to put extra pressure. I mean, in the US, for example, in Washington, you have these committees who are specifically geared to fixing those problems. And don't tell me, Oro, they're not problems by the government-owned companies, because there are many problems.
Okay, now you was CEO of the port for how many years?
The port, when it started, it was, let's see, so I started in 2002 as the managing director of the holding group. And then, of course, it was the operating company, which had Rommel Charles. And we merged that after a few years. So I was CEO for, let's say, from 2002 to 2017, when, the incident happened with me. And then, of course, the official date where I am not no more at the port was actually in 2020.
Look, I'm going to go back and forth, but I want to come to your court case later on, if you don't mind, all right?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
When you took over the port, how many companies were there?
When I took over the port, I think there were 4 companies. There was the holding company, which was the 3 companies, cruise, cargo facilities, and the holding itself. Holding itself is like it's like an umbrella company. And then you had a Smart Port Authority. I think you can recall where Romo was in.
Right.
And there was a contract between the Smart Port Authority and the holding company. So we had to do, but we did all the loans, the developments, the expansions, and then we also had to manage the operating company.
And it grew, to 13 companies?
Yeah, it grew to 13 companies. So what we noticed, Oral, we noticed that in the market, we had a growing model. We had a growth model to grow the economy. People still don't understand really, but look, a hub and an airport are economic drivers. They're not a P&L company like a supermarket, or you need to make 10 million bottom line. No, you need to reinvest that money. Coming back to the port, I think when I started there, the revenue was between 7 and 10 million. I'm not too sure, but when I left, the revenue was averaging $47-48 million US. And that was, for example, we had a Simana Harbor fueling company. That company was there to, not to be a competitor in the market, but also to help the issues, for example, GB. GB was looking for alternative generators, was moving over from heavy fuel to LNG. There also was master planning of the LNG fueling in KB. It's on the shelf. It's on the shelf.
They're still stuck in that.
No, but it's on the shelf. The TNO report, which I got in contact with TNO by the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Mark Rutte, and then we made a report. How do we deal with alternative fueling? I remember there was an exciting project of alternative energy. That was the energy coming from the volcano, the heat. That report is there. All those reports are on the shelf. But we seem to like reports on the shelf and don't execute. My job at the port was to execute. And I think if you look back, I executed well. Every project I did was finished within budget, or there's an overrun. There are always rules on overruns of 5%, but they were all finished up to the last project, which was actually Walter Plans. And before Walter Plans, of course, the big project was the Causeway.
Well, with the Walter Plans, other people took credit for that and said it was their idea and their design.
Oral, it's not about, look, it's good that everybody has ideas. My job as a CEO is to execute. If I see the numbers fit, if I
Yeah.
see it does good for the economy, I will look at it and I will execute it. And the reason why I can execute very well, I myself am a structural engineer. So if I sit on a table with a Bollisnado, for example, you can't fool Mark Mingo. I remember, don't forget, two of the expansion project at the port was done by the same Bollisnado who is doing the airport now. Guess what? They come with their lawyers on the job to do a project. So any changes, like even two dots on an I, they'll send you a change order. And not a change order of $1,000, a change order of $100,000. So, but we also had our team in place. We had our lawyer in place, myself. We had an engineer in place. You imagine we had two engineers on the team, and that is how we booked successes in projects.
Do you think that you moved to aggressively seeing all the growth that took place during your tenure?
No, no. I think if we didn't do that, we won't have the revenue base. We won't be able to reach. There's a threshold at a harbor. You need to stay at about 1.25 million passengers to be able to pay the bills and also to help Phillipsburg and economy. In the last few years, I wasn't there since 2017. You saw that the Phillipsburg has fallen back. If you speak to the Indians, I speak to a lot of investors as well. They're not happy. They're not happy about the economy. But you look at the number speaks for itself. And has my approach, or if I look at a port today, should the strategy be different? I think yes, the strategy would be different, should be different. I've mentioned on another show as well, listen, we have a serious issue with infrastructure. Don't forget the causeway.
We've always had that.
Yeah, but the causeway is only part of the solution, was a link. There's a report on links for the infrastructure which needs to be completed. And if we don't look at that, you see the traffic in the off season, you see the amount of cars and traffic you have. If you don't address that, your satisfaction numbers will go down from the tourists. I mean, let's be honest, if town is like that and you get feedback from cruise passengers, the cruise passengers are going to spend their money either on board of the cruise ship or another island. And I said it as a joke. If I were to walk off with my girlfriend or wife to the office ship and I wanted to buy a nice watch in Phillipsburg, if you look how Phillipsburg looks, you won't buy no watch. You might not buy the watch. So you're going to wait for your next stop or you're going to buy it on board a ship. And that whole mechanism has changed.
Well, no, we are also not competitive when you look at the merchants in Phillipsburg. I had a friend that wanted to buy a luxury watch in Phillipsburg.
There you go, yeah.
Changed his mind.
Yeah.
Why? Because he could have got it cheaper on another island.
Yeah, and not only that, you got social media, you got online. These shoppers, they do their homework before.
Yeah.
What does it cost? Is it certified? Or am I satisfied that I get a guaranteed letter that Rolex or that whatever watch, I don't know why I'm saying Rolex, but you have other brands. What is it? And we've lost that touch. I remember in years, all you even know that better than me. You come off the ship, you walk off. You had a Norway, the SSS Norway.
Yeah.
Comes off. They came on the boat, the small boat towards the Captain Hodge Wharf, and then the water taxi. They come off, and then they basically blindly buying watches and brand stuff. Now that times have changed.
Yeah. When you look at where we are today, right? Let's now go to the court case. Can you go back to the first time you became aware of what was happening, that you being investigated in this whole matter in the port?
Well, let's put it this way, Oral. By me being successful CEO in the port, I have created a lot of. You don't only get the positives, you get the negatives as well. If it's now jealousy, whatever, I can't be, but that's part of the job. It started, of course, by the inquiry when we had the Dutch Village, the Zebek case. It started with that. I'm not part of that lawsuit continues. I'm not part of that. So that tells you enough. My acquittal also tells you enough. So during that court case, the court case against me in 2017, when these documents start coming up, I started reading the documents with the lawyers and all of that. Certain things were really a surprise to me. And then it became clear what really was the motive of that case. And I'm not going to call any names here on this show, but they were looking at a lot of certain individuals from government. And that documents I have because I was approached by the U.S. government, and they warned me, listen, this is coming. And how do you deal with that? Because you're a CEO, ultimately responsible. When that happened, I'll be honest, I was very disappointed in the board of directors. They basically blamed me and ran off. They said things in process verbal for the viewers.
You mean the directors of the port?
Documents. Yeah, the board of directors. You see that's going on. Everybody wants to be on the board. They want to have the nice part of it, but they don't want to take the responsibility. Being a CEO, it also means that sometimes you go through these kind of turbulences.
Well, your lawyer, when he appeared on this program, he personally singled out one of them.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, to
I'm not calling in, but I know he did.
Yeah, to also to give the viewers a bit of explanation. My first lawyer was actually indirectly put there by the port, and I fired him. That's Mr. Hotsman. I like to call his name. That's Mr. Hotsman. They blocked my lawyer from the Netherlands, which was an expert in fraud cases, in these kind of cases, to defend me. That was blocked. So I fired that lawyer, and I hired Mr. Marks because Mr. Marks is very experienced in these kind of critical cases. And I remember on the first time when I showed him it was 32 files, or don't get scared. He got scared. He said, oh, well, maybe, yeah, I ain't too sure about this. And then when he started looking in the documents, his eyes opened up. And I remember his words, he smells blood. And I laughed. I said, what are you talking about? You smell blood. I say a lot of things didn't follow procedure. There are a lot of TCI reports don't even match up, or not even the truth was not even checked. And I myself actually am laughing here on your show because I have to laugh because I know now a bit, because second year law student, I got a year and a half more to go, and then hopefully I can start my practice. I guess I have the practical experience already, but then you open up your eyes and then you say, wow. And you could do two things, Oral. You can do two things. And you know my dad very good, the late Frank Mingo. You either sit down and you walk away and you won the case and you walk away, or you fight and you fight for the justice. Because I've approached a lot of people as well who are wondering, but how could that happen? How this, how that? No, Oral, it's been I can tell you, it's been an interesting ride, but beforehand, you could see the signal what's coming. So I was prepared. That it was coming.
But did they really sell your house?
Yeah, it works like this. You have no income. You either your asset's going to be auctioned, or you're going to go find a buyer. I had some buyers on the market with appraisals and everything, and then there was intervention, which plummeted the price of the sale of the asset. So, to keep it short, that is what happened, and that's also going to be part of the claim, because I cannot accept that.
I guess a lot of people can't imagine the hell you went through.
You know, Oral, if you have to be a believer. I think being a CEO and being Mark Mingo myself, I'm a very optimistic person. And I had days, boy, you start to wonder what happened? Where did it go wrong? I remember I had days, weeks, I was reading. You imagine this is 32 files? I think I read them about 10 to 12 times. I know those files in and out better than a lawyer. So imagine the frustration. But it was difficult. But I'm a strong individual, and once you believe you did nothing wrong, you fight for that. And to your viewers, to anyone out there who's struggling, and you just keep believing. If you know you did nothing wrong, you keep pushing for the truth. You keep pushing. And today, I get, of course, the chance to, and I want to thank you as well, to share my story. But the story has to be shared. It has to be. I remember people say, oh, yeah, but you win, go be quiet, go in your corner. I say, excuse me? I was quiet for 5 years.
Well, I guess they don't know your father.
They don't know him. Yes, I do miss him, but he taught me well, and I think I improved what he taught me.
Yeah. In case you've just joined us, I'm Oral Gibbs. This is Oral Gibbs Live. My guest is Mr. Mark Mingo. Mr. Mark Mingo is a former CEO of the Port of St. Maarten, the man that brought it from a small little port to international port, and then he was literally, I don't want to use the word, but I mean, it is what they did to you, Mark, wasn't good. And I've said it on this program in the early days. because in St. Maarten, very few people want to stick their necks out. They're afraid. What it did to you was wrong. What it did also, it kind of destroy a lot of ambitions of younger people because they don't want to take that risk anymore. Because if you remember earlier, I said to you, if you were not too aggressive, in other words, seeing how you manage the port in a very good way, you bring yourself a lot of secret enemies. And sometimes on this island, I can tell you I've experienced that. It is not easy.
No, Oral, look, that comes with a job. And your success sometimes becomes your greatest enemy. But I'm gonna tell the younger up and coming leaders as well. Don't think you're gonna sit on a chair, be nice as a CEO and do all the nice stuff, and that's all nice and well. Even to if you can be a minister or politician, you have to work for it. Every execution you did, there's a risk to it. And once you believe it's the right thing to do, continue making decisions. The issue we have now, Oral, is because of all of these things, including my case, people are so scared to make even a decision. You as a CEO,
Exactly.
a CEO takes calculated risk. I take calculated risk. Did I have to build a causeway? No, maybe I didn't have to build a causeway. Should I have built a causeway for the island, for the future of the island? Yes. You saw when the causeway was down 1 or 2 days. You see what happened to the traffic?
Yeah.
It also protects the airport. Am I disappointed that the CEO at that time, Mr. Holiday, didn't contribute in the causeway? Yes, I'm disappointed in Mr. Holiday at that time when there was no contribution for the causeway. But what I'm going to do, cry about it? No. We put our heads together. We sat with the board. We sat with the shareholder. We executed and we built the causeway. Does the causeway work today for everybody? It works for both sides of the island.
Well, Mr. Mingo, I have to go to a break, but I'll tell my guests, my audience, that this is Oral Gibbs Live. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Hot 99.9 FM radio station right here in beautiful St. Maarten on the Simpson Bay Strip. And remember, you have to subscribe. If you subscribe, then you will know when we go live, when we upload the show, before anyone else. So, Mr. Mingo, when we come back, we're going to continue speaking with you right here in the program. All right?
Yeah.
Let's play with this right back.
In order to know what you want out of life, you need to observe, listen, and try it yourself.
Promises, we can make it if we work together. That's just how it is. Let's stand strong, and serve the land. Working hard as one nation. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
The more difficult it is to achieve, the more satisfying it is to make it.
Just believe in us, we'll see you through it all. Oh, never give up. Oh, never give up. We can make it.
Never forget those who were there for you. And if you dream big, you might just achieve it.
The power to serve, standing for community. OGEB got the power to serve, the power to serve. We got the energy. OGEB.
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit wib-bank.net/.
My guest on the program is Mr. Mark Mingo. He's right here with me, and I'm still very proud of you, Mr. Mingo, because your father was a good friend of my family, and your brother and your sister, your mother, all. It's amazing. I don't oftentimes say this, but when you look at this island today, there are not many families that can say they have 2 or 3 children and turn out to be as successful as you, your brother, and your sister. You're all really a good Maarten success story.
Yeah, Oral, if you look at the Mingo family, and I'm going to say, I'm the youngest, by the way, out of 3. Everybody thinks I'm older than my brother on the airport. There's a difference. You have Brian Mingo at the airport, you have Mark Mingo speaking. I'm 2 years younger than Brian Mingo. I'm the youngest, but the Mingo family was never about money. We were always about helping people, also about knowledgeable. Always, my dad was a teacher also at Milton Peters, Electrotechniek.
Right.
And with Grace Garin and his sister as well. We were always preaching, get educated, get your education in order, give people a chance. We are not about the money makers and those, and that's one of the disappointments in going back to my case as well, is it taught me and Theo Heiliger were twins, and we were wheeling and dealing. Serious. They thought we were the biggest wheeling and dealers on projects, and Mr. 10%, those kind of things.
Yeah.
But when you come to find out, those reports in that dossier was built on that as well. And when it came to find out on the end, it's not true. Okay, good. But coming back to the Mingo family, we always want to give back. Even up to today as we speak, I help people. I talk to them, education, if it's now nephews or kids, young kids. I continue to preach, listen, go and do your school. Look, I even went back to school. That should motivate a lot of people. I'm 51. I'm 2nd year's law, and I'm doing great. And, it's hard because at night, in the day after work, and in the evening I have to study. It's not easy, but the program is there, and you should keep always, you're never too old to learn, never.
Now, I had your lawyer in this program, Mr. Merckx.
Yes.
He came on the program after the acquittal, and he said there was, I think, 7 or 14 days for appeal by the prosecutor.
Yes.
Did they appeal?
No, they didn't went in cassatie. They call it Supreme Court, Den Haag is cassatie. That didn't happen. I think the judgment was very strong. Look, the 3 judges, I mean, these judges were no walkover. I heard comments, Mr. Merckx and Mr. Mingo tried to fool. You can't fool judges. That's not. The Hof, they call it a Hof, that's the appeal courts. These are serious people. These are people, they look at everything. I was questioned left and right about, what really happened. And I was satisfied. And then, of course, I waited very nervously on the outcome. Because it's still you have to wait, and the judgment was there in my favor, and the judgment was very clear because it's also connected to, of course, the EVRM rules. Those are actually the rules for making sure that you follow all the process during a case, and that was closed. So that is closed. I think what happened, I just want to touch base on the claim as well, because everybody ready a multi-million-dollar claim and this and that. No, the claim is a window of timelines. The first timeline has passed. The claim of the criminal claim has gone in.
What's the
criminal claim is that pays the cost you had for being incarcerated, for your legal fees. That's paid for. So it's like it pays for all the costs.
What's the amount of that claim?
Well, I don't want to discuss that here. I spoke to Mr. Merckx. Also in the last interview said we're not going to discuss that. And then you go over to the civil claim, and you have to look at it like O.J. Simpson. For example, he was acquitted as a criminal, but then in the civil claim, he had to pay millions because there was a lot of proof and evidence. So now it's going into the avenue of the civil claim. Then it becomes interesting because the civil claim has subclaims in it of about 8 or 9 subclaims. So it's that already. That process is already in motion. That's one of the reasons Mr. Merckx also made a press release. That was not done by me, by the way. But Mr. Merckx wanted to also explain from the legality point of view what's taking place.
And this might take many years, right?
No, that won't take many years. That's how you approach it. I believe in any claim, and I'm still pro-settlement. I think that's the best thing for both parties. That's what I believed in. But every claim you need to make a financial report, and we already started that motion of making the damaged financial report. and I'm well documented oral. Usually in these cases, the documentation is, like 50-50, but I'm well documented. I have all the documentation. We got a lot of documentation from the Supreme Court in The Hague from the inquiry. Remember, there was also inquiry which is still running at the port. We got a lot of documents, and it's actually unbelievable. It's actually unbelievable.
How you view things now? Do you think the Dutch is the enemy or we are the enemy?
Look, we are mixing up things here.
That's a very tricky question.
Yeah, but we are mixing things up. Do I, because of this, do I have something against the Dutch? I say no, absolutely not. If you read, even in the legal books, if you read everything with the Dutch is a kingdom. We are in a kingdom. We chose for that. In a kingdom, it works like this. In a kingdom, we always first work as consensus. So me and you would sit and come to agree. If that takes too long, the Dutch will make a decision for us. And that's what's happening over and over. It's like a repeat record. We don't make any decisions. We don't make bold decisions. And then we get like the Coho rammed down your throat, the TW rammed down your throat. But it's our own fault. So
I'm glad to hear that, because that's
how it is. Now there's the other side of it, and I got to be careful what I say, because the mother of my kids is Dutch. She's a lawyer, by the way, too. But we have to separate the feelings from what is real.
Right.
And we seem to not be able to do that, because I myself have lived 15 years in Holland. I've worked, I've met a lot of friends, Dutch friends, but the cultures are different. And if you ask me today, should a Dutch CFO be at a government-owned company or a local CFO be at a government-owned company or any large company, guess what I'm going to answer as Mark Mingo? A local CFO should be at any government-owned company. And if they have the competence and you guide them and coach them correctly, there should be no excuses. There should be no excuses. And that is that I have always believed in that. If my two children are born on St. Maarten, they're born in St. Maarten, they're doing great they're now studying in the Netherlands, they're doing great. My daughter is going technical university. She's only 17. She's 4 girls out of the 100 guys.
Wow.
And every day I got to hear, oh, Daddy, why you make me go do technical studies? But her brain is technical. And she struggles with that, by the way. And there are a lot of kids here who don't even get an opportunity to go abroad and study.
What about the boy?
The boy is like he's 13. I put something on social media. He's a star in soccer. He started, by the way, his career in Belvedere.
Wow.
That's 5 years. They laughed at him. He used to fall down and run in. He used to go Sister Martha school. But he's 13, and the nice thing about it, he still speaks Martin English. Like, he makes me laugh because he has some Dutch friends, but now he has a Nigerian friend because he can speak English. so they're multicultural, and to see this all is like, I see kids so talented on Saman, but they don't get a chance. Coming back to that, if I'm not Donald Trump, but St. Maarten first, you got to work for St. Maarten first. But it is, our St. Maarteners should be first. And there are conditions to that.
Well,
There's conditions to being a St. Maartener. You have to perform, as my dad say, you have to perform better than the rest when you're from St. Maarten. And that's true.
Well, a lot of people get angry with me because I like Donald Trump, by the way. I think St. Maarten first, period. There's no doubt about that. And I've always said that. But having said that, I think we always try to single out the Dutch as the enemy, while the enemy is right here among us ourselves.
But I think Donald Trump says that himself, Oral. The enemy is from within.
Yeah.
It's not from, if you see what they're doing to the man now, it's from their own opposition party, their own party. I don't want to get into that case. My case, I feel, look, I'm going to be straightforward about this. I have nothing against the Dutch. What I have an issue with is, if we're going to put integrity and good corporate governance, and we love to use the word good corporate governance, we like to use the word corporate governance more than to help a fellow St. Maartener. Yeah. Let me help you. I love you. Let me help you. Integrity, good corporate governance, corruption. Listen, I don't believe in St. Maarten in corruption. I believe in economic corruption. Why is economic corruption? We are always a weaker party, but we also always a party which gets the licks and which gets called that the corrupted one, that's the crook. So coming back to the Dutch versus St. Maarten issue, Look, the Dutch is not a problem. It's not a problem. We're within a kingdom. We say we live within a family. We live within a family. That's how it's stated also by law.
Yeah.
And we need to have a consensus with each other. Consensus for your viewers is very simple. We need to learn to get along with each other.
But I think
But the issue, Oral, is we have too much leaders on St. Martin who put away their head, who talk the nice talk, but can't walk the walk.
Well,
They talk sweet, but when things hit the fan, when the heat comes on them, they either run or put their head away.
that's a fact. And the thing is that we need to try to work on our relationship with the Dutch government because it's too combative.
But
It's unbelievable.
But Oral, you cannot work with the Dutch if you're not credible. We just got liquidity support of 24 million. What is it? 24 million guilders. But we haven't shown nowhere where we're going to increase revenues. I said it already. We have the issue with the police, the nurses, and the teachers. They're not getting paid, whatever the issue is. There's one conclusion there. There's not enough income for government. Let's be honest. How does a government create income? By putting a tax. How you put it together, if you need to collect the taxes or not, go and collect them, but also be creative to make sure that you discuss with the big boys, the Dannies, the Maxuts, how do you solve that issue? We cannot continue with this.
But let me say this to you, Mr. Mingo. When your father was alive, he was on this program a lot, right? Then he was appointed Minister of Finance.
That's correct.
And I remember the day I received a call from him on the phone. He said to me, Oral, I resigned. Couldn't take it anymore. It was just unbelievable. That's how politics is. Are you prepared to go through that?
Well, before we started to talk here, I know where you're going to. Before we started talking, I've listened to my dad, and my dad was a very strong character. Politics is not the black and white. My dad was black and white. Yes or no, no nonsense. Politics has a gray area, meaning you also have compromises. If you don't compromise in politics, you know how that goes. They wipe you out. That's how it goes. I remember he was Minister of Finance. I remember this. He told me that he was very upset. He saved a lot of money with surplus. He was Minister of Finance of the islands. There were surpluses. And then you had at that time the Millennium Bug problem. I think Minister Marcel Gomes was in there. And he was so upset that Marcel Gomes had to spend the surpluses on the Millennium Bug, which was possible. But in my opinion, if you talk about it now, it's a compromise. You give or take, lose or win. And my dad always wanted to win. I always had a point. And it's difficult here. I know if you're going to ask me that question, but let me put it this way: the Mingo family, from my grandfather, Frank Mingo Sr., to Frank Mingo, my dad, has always been in politics. I don't know which generation is going to follow up my dad, but something needs to happen. We cannot continue like this. Something needs to happen.
I think you're going to follow.
Well, I asked the family. There were no objections, and the media is like crazy if I'm running. I haven't made up my mind. What I am doing, and people can see that, I am out there listening. I'm talking with with you all as well, the media. I'm going on the ground as well, listen what's happening out there. And there's some serious issues we need to address. If we don't address that teacher, police, and nurses issue, that's a ticking bomb.
Yeah.
That's a ticking bomb. Because don't forget, Oral, me and you, our family, has some resources. Your kids are finalized. They're working, they're educated. My kids, they'll be okay. But there are a lot of families out there which are hurting the inflation alone. Talk about inflation. Let's not even go to the GB part of it. But there's a lot of stress out there. And that is what I'm sensing. And all I'm trying to do is I'm not only criticizing, because you don't really hear me like to criticize too much, but I come with solutions. You can listen to it. You can say, let me look into it. Or you can say, hey, he's talking rubbish. But I know everything I do, unlike my dad, is researched. I can defend anything I say. When I talk about the CO2 tax, I will explain it on a white paper, soon to be, but that's the way to go. If you look at countries as European Union, the Argentina, China, they already have that in place. Now, let me talk about consensus. If we don't take lead in the CO2 tax, let's bet the Netherlands will come with it and it's going to be drilled down our throat.
Yeah.
The nice thing about CO2 tax is, for your viewers as well, the CO2 tax is such a creative tax that the rich programs, so the rich contributors, the top 5%, they will be able to help pay for minimum wages and subsidize and all that. But it needs to be explained.
Exactly.
It needs to be technically explained, and that takes time. I will explain because I will come with a white paper on the CO2 tax. I spoke to people in the communities, they understand it, but sometimes it took me 3 hours just to explain one person what it is.
Yeah.
But for example, you book your ticket to go to the Netherlands. Look on the ticket and look down, they ask you, are you willing to contribute to a CO2 fee? It's voluntarily now. That's gonna be later. You're gonna be paying CO2 taxes on
It's gonna be
tickets.
mandatory. Yeah.
It's gonna be and worse yet, guess what? The footprint of a cruise line, you want to know what the CO2 footprint is of a cruise line. So why am I saying that? Is to protect our tourism, to protect our cruise tourism, to protect the planes what come here, that the planes are up to date, that you look at the CO2 footprint strategy. It's there, it's on, go Google CO2 tax fee. You'll see what's happening out there. And it's gonna come. Netherlands is struggling with, I sometimes feel for the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, he's struggling with the farmers of the nitrogen, the pigs and
But he's not struggling. I think it's a crazy idea that he have there.
Yeah, so-
and that's why he support the farmers.
So small, yeah. So not to get too much. I want to leave it to the CO2 tax approach. He has a problem because he has to deal with it. But don't. The issue he has is he has to comply to European standards, and we're in the same position. Holland have to comply to European standards for them to get billions from the European Union for their economy. We have to comply to Dutch standards, otherwise we won't get support, liquidity support, etc. So the more programs we find to become less dependent, the better for St. Maarten, the stronger you're going to be in the consensus discussion. That's how it works. You're going to put out your hand, liquidity, and you even can solve minimum wage police, let's say minimum wage police issues, nurse issues, and teacher issues. They're going to look at you, but wait, that you even can't solve.
Well, look, we had that problem back in the 1950s, 60s, and the then Nelson Tillies took care of it by introducing
I think Claude Watt took care of it
and
as well.
support,
I think, if I can recall, there were some incidents that he made decisions.
Yeah, but there were some benefits offered to police officers, etc., that encouraged people to get into the force, get a home.
And then they build the houses,
right,
I think, the temporary
exactly,
houses. But we are now. What are we going to do now?
Let's look at St. Maarten today. What are we doing? So you're right. It has to be our tackle.
Look, they're taking care of their officers. I can understand. They're taking care of the Dutch officers come here because they leave the family. They come here, they get an extra toelage. But you're also creating, and I said it already, you're creating this imbalance. I call it also economic imbalance. Very simple, Oral. They see the reason why there's politically no stability on St. Maarten because there's an economic imbalance. The political the political scene, so if the players in the political field, they don't reflect what's the economic power. And that's where you have an imbalance. You can bring back that balance by dealing with those issues first. And then you start bringing back the scale into balance. It can be done, but it's going to take some serious decisions.
Yeah. So you're going to consider entering politics?
Well, if you guarantee me your vote, I'll think about it. Oral, look, if when the time comes, it's not a secret. I am looking at it. I haven't formalized that part of it, but if I look at it and the situation St. Maarten is going today, and that our leaders are saying that St. Maarten is going good, for Mark Mingo, that's a problem. It was a question asked to me by one of the top business people on St. Maarten. Said, Mark, you could move on with your life and do what you have to do. Your family will be good, everybody will be good. Or two, you can do something great and make those changes and help make difficult decisions. Because decisions need to be made, not small decisions, big decisions. And to come back to your question, which I'm trying to avoid. It's if. When that time comes, Oral, I'm going to make that decision. But I'm seriously looking at running, yes, correct.
No, you got to look at it this way. At the beginning of the program, I mentioned your success story at the Port of St. Maarten. And key to that was your willingness to attract young St. Maarteners and give them responsible positions. You've done that. So you've proven yourself, really. And I I think the only place left for you to prove yourself is in the political arena. You see, because politics, we can say all we want. It touches your life. Either you're running from it, you can't get away from it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And
Politics chooses for you. You don't
Exactly.
choose for it. That's correct.
And there's a vacuum for intelligent, really aggressive, progressive people. And I think you fit that profile.
Oral, look, you want to answer from me, but
No,
but you're
I'm just-
Oral,
we're just
you're
talking.
right. I sat down with some people there, and they're blaming government and blaming the quality of government, and the people out there. I say, listen, stop talking that. Me and you are to blame. You know why? We have not put our best in government. We have not put our most intelligent people in government. The issue we got with that is, and maybe that makes me a perfect candidate, I can talk to the man on the street in the gutter. I can go Middle Region, Dutch Quarter, but I also be the CEO. I can also talk about investments. That is needed, and you know how do you approach that? I mean, as time comes along, I mean, when is the elections? November the 23rd,
Next
2023, right?
Yeah.
So I do have some time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you gotta be
months,
busy a
yeah.
year in advance, they
Yeah.
say. But I have time, and look, if I need to do something for the country itself, and as what you said, I have my stripes. I've proven myself already what I did. It's in the books. It's not a Cinderella story as yet. The story is not finished as yet. I've been through that turbulent time the last 5 years, and it's a serious. Let's put it this way: it's on the table, and when the time comes, I will make a decision. We do have some time. I will make a decision.
I think we need to invest in our people now, more than anything else.
Oral, with people, right? Investment in people. We always make mistakes. There are a lot of bright young guys out there, even politicians. If you talk about Artwell, Jurendi, Bryson, bright guys, but they need coaching. They need the older wise guy like you, me, around it. Tell, listen, that's not the way to go. Look at it this way. That nothing is wrong with that. That is missing, and we seem to also not want to put energy in coaching young, talented people, or we also find that when the young people come on board and they're critical about you, we like say, oh, they're too disgusting, we should hire a foreigner. No, it's good that they're critical and jumpy and ask questions and want to go their own way. That's motivation, that's energy. But you have to manage that energy. If you don't manage the energy, they're going to end up going the wrong way. You're going to end up in situations like the ombudsman and Vromi and the minister and all kind of confusion. And I'm speaking out of experience, and I'm a well-experienced, documented machine, and I still have to go through what I have to go through. So if I'm telling you that what I've been through and warning you, and nobody really wants to listen or take that advice, what you want me to say? But coming back to your question, we need to hire those young, energetic people, put them on position, and make sure they're surrounded by good, experienced people. You were a board member. I think you're not an easy guy. Not at all, but it's good to have a critical board member when you're a CEO. It's good that they scream at you, they don't agree. Why? You come to a better decision-making process. It's a better decision-making process. And what happened to me at the port is the security shields around me were undressed. I had a board of 2, then the board changed again, then the board doesn't know about nothing. Then you need a board also with experience.
Yeah.
To be critical on the CEO, to keep him on his toes. That fell away because the shareholder didn't want to make decisions.
Well, the shareholder doesn't like that either. They prefer when you have a board that just don't do anything, unfortunately.
No, but I think also too, and that's what I'm saying, is they need to bring in that committee of government-owned entities, put pressure also on the ministers to make sure they have pressure to make sure the government-owned companies are delivering the value proposition. Let's be honest, they're paying concession. Maybe the concession is not high enough. Where's the dividend of government-owned companies? In the US, if you're a CEO, if the company doesn't make profit and you don't pay dividend, you're fired the next day.
Yeah. And
you need to make profit.
And that is a whole political issue that I'll talk to you after the program.
Okay.
But we don't have that. I have about a minute and a half remaining.
Yeah.
Is there anything you feel that you should tell us about that I haven't asked you about?
No, I just want to thank you for having me on your show. I know, I've been to a lot of other different talk shows, but I'm now moving ahead with my life. I think now the claim is in process, in motion by Merckx and his Dutch team. I think that's now moving on, but that's separate. That's a legal part. But Mark Mingo is moving on. I'm gonna take your. I'm gonna come back and you'll be the first person to know if I'm running for next election. But Oral, I just want to thank the supporters out there for me. I want to thank my mom, Hetty Gatsonides. I want to thank my sister, Marlene Mingo, and I want to thank my brother, Brian Mingo, and also some of my family members and the people I least expect who supported me. For sure, I want to thank Mr. Carl Chavois and Mr. Peters, Bertrand Peters. They have been there from day one through my tribulations, and many out there. And the people who I least expect support from, they supported me. They supported me. Unreal.
Yeah. And a lot of people at the port too on low-level jobs.
Yeah, well, not only low level. I get calls every day, and I tell them, listen, focus on your work. There's a new CEO. Focus on your work. It's time for me to move on, and I'm doing my own stuff. I'm busy enough, very busy, but busy for myself. Some of you see I got younger. I think I got younger, more happier. But I'm always willing to support the community or to support anything out there.
I hope you're also open to calls from Mr. Gums. He's a great young man, as CEO at the port right now.
Yes, it's he's there. I mean, he's the new CEO. We have worked together. I told him one thing. I told him is focus on the value proposition, and he'll be okay. And I hope even for Mr. The GB, the new person at GB, Troy Washington. I know him because he also did the same masters as me and all. I know him from the Netherlands actually. Yeah. Great young man, a lot of energy. And I said it as well. Get some good experienced people around you to guide you. So yeah. I do miss support. I'm not going to ignore that. I do miss support, but it's time for me to move on.
Mr. Mingo, I want to thank you, wish you much success, you and your family, and hope we can have you back here sometime in the future to talk about your latest move into politics.
Oh, okay. I will then. Thank you, Aurel.
Thank you
so much.
All the best.
Okay, thank you.
And that's it for now. See you next time. Till then, take care. Bye.